Today is Tuesday, 30th of May, 1:35 o'clock in the morning. Michael White, one of the hot news topics in Iran and in the world, and of course one of the strangest things I've seen in prison, is here and we became friends. A middle-aged American in 5th decade of his life, in age of 47-48, falls in love with an Iranian girl and comes to Iran to work on his relationship, not knowing that a terrorist hostage-taker government is waiting here for this opportunity to take him as a political hostage. Michael is tall, relatively thin, with blonde hairs and blue eyes, with distinct signs of chemotherapy on his skin, hair, teeth, and his bones. Last year, when I was temporarily here for 2 weeks, they brought him to prison just one day before me, and somehow, in an unexpected way, we came here at the same time and get connected to each other.
یه سلول کوچیک، یه اتاق خالی هر روز بازجویی.
Now Azadi.
Yeah.
Nice and slow when you rotate. We got extra weight.
Warrior 5-4 back to number 2, following Cessna, doing a short approach for 278, clear to land.
Clear to land following Cessna 5-4 Quebec. 278.
Michael, how are you?
Michael White, born in Los Angeles, and Mehdi Vatankhah, born in Mashhad, may not seem to have much in common at first glance, but the four walls of a cell in Vakilabad Prison in Mashhad marked the beginning of their painful story. They met for the first time on a cold spring morning.
Exactly the first day I entered Section 6-1 and I entered the prison, the same night they told me that they brought an American to the prison. It was very strange for me. I didn't expect that. I was thinking, why is he here? In my city, in my life, and the whole 19 years that I lived, I never saw an American. But they told me that they brought an American the same day I came to the prison.
Michael White is a former member of the U.S. Navy, born in North Los Angeles. After finishing high school in 1992, he joined the U.S. Navy. Following his enlistment, he was deployed to the Persian Gulf aboard the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln. Michael says the two missions in the Persian Gulf in 1993 and 1995 introduced him to Iranian culture. He retired from the Navy in 2005, but the rest of his story should be heard from this American veteran himself, because even after leaving the Persian Gulf, his path led him back to Iran, and his stories took on a new shape.
October 2012. As I was chatting, I get a private message from somebody in the chat room. And I was surprised because I'd never seen anybody from Iran in that chat room before, so I was curious on who it was and what they wanted. And I started chatting, and it turned out to be the person I ultimately met, Samini Abbasi. And she explained to me she was from Iran. She had a master's degree in physics, astrophysics, and she was learning English. And she was just looking for an American to basically chat with, to practice English and stuff. And I saw photos of her and I was really surprised. She was actually very attractive, very beautiful. She was kind of dressed like an American, hair was flowing out. And I was really surprised because I wasn't expecting to see that from anybody from Iran. And one time, a few months later, she finally had the courage to try to call me. It just called me and listened to my voice, but hung up. And hey, a few times later, she eventually started to talk to me. She asked one time, would you like to come to Iran, meet me and marry me? And I said, just out of gist, yeah, sure, why not? And she said, no, it's impossible. And eventually we did figure this out. And I was able to figure out how to come up with money to travel there and things like that. And the reason we initially chose Quiche Island is because Quiche Island, you don't require a visa. Americans don't need a visa to go there. We didn't know that at first. And I was a little nervous, by the way, by that, because I knew I was going into a little bit of hostile territory. When I came up to the custom agent, showed my passport, clearly American flag, they put me over in for secondary screening on that. one of the agents. He could speak English. He was asking me questions about why I was there, what was my purpose, how long I was going to be there. After that, and after they're confident that, that's all that was going on, they stamped it, allowed me to go through. Just to show you, how things went, Samine, when she arrived, originally the plan was we're going to both be at the same hotel, but different rooms. Because, we weren't able to get a hotel, and I was able to get this apartment, she met me at the apartment. When I arrived to the airport the second time at Mashad, the first time at Mashad, but the second time in Iran, I did go through a little additional screening too, about purpose and stuff. But once that was finished, they stamped and allowed me to pass through. And then I met Samine and the tour guide. His name was Ehsan.
I know that meanwhile, you're getting the Islam.
I even consider myself technically Muslim now, although I don't practice it at the moment. But I really did sacrifice myself for her. And so I was willing to do any step I could to be with her. She would go to parties with her cousin Arzu, would have people over, they'd be drinking alcohol. She did too. The average Iranian people. And I saw them when I was in Kisha, and I saw them in Mashhad. They're basically Americans. This form of government in America, and put it there, they would transition fairly easily. After I left Turkey, and disappointed and sad, difficulties, and one day at the blue she tells me she can't talk to me anymore. December 2017, she contacted me and asked, finally contacted me, told me she wanted me to prove myself to her, so she told me that I could start making my trip to Iran. She wanted me to go there, talk to her about a relationship, and hopefully we would go to Turkey, get married, and she wanted to come to the US to start her family. That's what she told me later on, after over a year of out of contact and stuff. Unfortunately, at this time I had developed cancer. And so when I returned the third time to Iran, Mashad, to meet Samine and everything like that, to discuss our future plans, relationship, and stuff of that nature, they obviously already knew where I was coming, who I was going to meet, and everything like that. She didn't tell me that she'd ever met with, of course, intel agents. I figured this out a little bit later, but Samine had contacted me the morning of Sunday, July 22nd. So she told me she wanted me to meet her over there anyway, and rather than at the hotel, because she was afraid her father might try to follow her or something like that, She said it was a good chance, and then she told me I should get breakfast and stuff. I didn't put things together right at that moment, but later on, after everything happened, I figured out why she was telling me that, because she knew what was going to happen. Then as we're driving, we're starting to go around a roundabout. And as we're getting ready to go around about, some car cuts right in front of us. And then son tries to go around, the car cuts again. This time though, some guy rolls down the passenger side window, and he's waving his arm like this frantically for us to pull over. I asked Ehsan, what do these guys want? So we pull over to the side of the road. This car parks right in front of us. Next thing you know, while we're there, 3 guys get out of the car. 2 on the passenger side, and then the driver. They start approaching. The guy in the front seat, passenger seat, when he gets out, he points a camera right at us. And I'm thinking right then, something ain't right about this situation. And the other guy comes up to the door. He opens the door, he pulls me out, handcuffs me and stuff, and takes my cell phones and stuff, and then starts walking me back to the car in front. And they put me in the back of this car, blindfold me, push my head against the back seat and stuff. And I could say that's probably where my whole ordeal began, right then and there. After that, they take me to a secret jail facility called the Intel Jail, jail facility, Ministry of Intelligence. Once they got me in there, they had me take off all my clothes and put on like this orange jumpsuit thing, and took photos. Once they got me finished in this office, they handcuffed me, put a blindfold over my eyes, and walked me through some corridors and put me into a very small cell. Once again, asking me about my purpose in Iran, why I was involved with Samine, things of the nature of whether I was there at the, because the U.S. government directed me, or Israel, and things like that. And then they started pressuring me to make up false stories about why I was there and stuff.
What kind of the torturing they have?
When I didn't answer questions the way they wanted to, they'd have somebody hold me back in my seat and they'd take a taser and put it in my face and threaten to shock me with it. They basically said, explain the real reason why I came to Iran. Don't say ceremony and marriage. Well, I was in the intel jail for nearly 2.5 months or so. Then after that, there was an incident. I got really distraught about being there because I didn't know how long I'd been there. My mind was racing. So I tried to one time use some clothing that they changed out to hang myself in the restroom. But then they saw it on camera. I didn't know they had cameras in this thing, and they came storming in and started beating me up over that. And then after that, a few days later, they moved me to Mashad Central Prison.
The first time I was taken to prison, I was there for months and I came out on a bail. After 6 months, I was taken to prison again. The first time I went there, I saw Michael, and when I get out, I tried to spread the news. Because that time, the news about Michael was not published anywhere. None of the news outlets said anything about him, and it continued like this for a while. I emailed a few news outlets. I emailed US State Department about presence of this person here, because I was thinking that nobody knows he's here and I had to let them know.
Did you have any chance to call to your family in the US?
I couldn't make phone calls at all.
At all?
No,
Never?
No, never. They wanted to keep it secret that I was there. I realized after a couple of the hearings that I was being held as a political hostage. One case in point, during one of the when I was at the courthouse one time, they took me in front of this commissioner. He was asking questions. I explained some situation that happened at the intel jail. And then I remember him through Ehsan, who was there as a translator, telling me, well, I'm sorry about whatever happened to you at the intel jail, but he said this, he said, in Iran, there's only 2 Americans in prison, me and somebody in Tehran. But he said in America, there's like 350 Iranians being held on bogus charges and stuff of that nature.
Right.
He said that. And I knew right then and there that this wasn't about me actually doing any crimes. They knew it. It was about holding me as a political hostage.
At first, let me tell you about our cell. Our cell was almost this size, a little bit larger, and triple bunk beds all around. It was very crowded. Let's say we were 30 people in a room this size, and in 24 hours each day we had like 2 hours outside, but the rest of the day we had to stay in the room. In this section, we didn't have the right to make any contact with people in other cells.
In the public prison in Iran, first time you met Mehdi.
At that point, being that I didn't know who I was interacting, of course, I kept, I didn't initially explain everything to him about why I was there, or I didn't even know why I was there. I didn't know, other than being accused of possibly being a spy, I didn't have an actual charge against me at all. All this time, no charge against me. But that's when I first met him, right down there in the quad, started talking to him for a few minutes.
I was waiting to see him, and my English was good. It was better than others in prison, so I wanted to know why he's here. The first time I saw him, I think it was 7 or 8 in the morning, and everyone were asleep, and someone told me that this American person is in the outside area. We had a very small outside area in our small section. So I went there, I saw him exercising on this exercise equipment. He was very nervous, he was very messed up, he talked a little bit, he didn't have anyone to talk to. So when I started the conversation, he just continued, and at first he didn't trust me, of course, because he didn't know me. But he told me his story and he asked my story and we talked a little bit, and this was the start of our friendship. I went out of prison, and after 6 months for the same case and same court, they sent me to prison again. And this time we get to know each other much more and we get much closer. The last time I came out for a furlough and I was outside for a few days, I contacted Michael's family and his lawyer. He wanted to tell a few things to the outside world, but he didn't have any communications. His communication was very limited and he wanted to say some stuff to outside. He had some requests and some points to tell. And I told all this and discussed all this with his mother and his lawyer. We called and three of us discussed his situation together.
اینجا بود تماس گرفتن با وکیلش تماس گرفتن و 3 نفری ما صحبت کردیم.
Well, here's the thing. When he went out, I didn't have any contact, obviously. No way. I couldn't make phone calls. And he couldn't get messages back. That didn't happen. More like when he came back, he'd tell me what was going on. I wrote a letter and gave it to him, and he said he'll sneak it out. And then I gave him information on my mom, how to contact her. And
بهشون اطمینان دادم که زنده است و
I assured them that he is alive and well, and I sent them his requests and letters. The prison officials explicitly told me not to do this, but I did it because I felt it's the right thing to do and it's humane, and I feel like some innocent person is here and I have to help him.
And one of the times that he got out on furlough, he smuggled my letter out carefully. You had to be careful because if they got caught with that, it could cost him his life. So he risked his life to get that out. And then he risked his life by actually calling, Jonathan Franks, who was my spokesman, and my mom, to let them know what was going on and stuff, and pass my message on to them. So he did those things for me. Swiss Embassy would come visit me a few times.
In the Vakilabad?
Yeah, they were able to come visit me a few times there. I was never really able to make phone calls on my own, except 1 or 2 times, which was in December of 2019. For the first time, they actually had me, from the Intel office, allow me to make a call to, or they dialed, I didn't know what they were doing, but they dialed the number and gave me a phone, and it was to my mom's number in the US. And she was stunned as I was that I was calling. I didn't even know it was her until, So I was able to talk to her a few times. One of the times she recorded the call, and I explained everything that had happened to me, and then that call got out. Actually, a recording of that call got on CNN. Now, at some point later on, I went out on what they call medical furlough because I contracted the coronavirus in the prison. And so I was taken out by the Swiss Embassy to Tehran, and then they put me into an apartment while I was out on this medical. This would have been in late March of 2020. I want to explain something. There was no real exchange. Not at all. Iran ultimately capitulated and released me virtually for nothing. They say exchange? No. The person that they claimed would exchange was an American citizen. I want to emphasize, he's an American citizen that the U.S. government was planning to release anyway.
When you back to the U.S., said you had a relation with Mehdi.
Absolutely. I made a promise to him. When we were in the prison, especially when he came back from furlough and told me all the stuff he was able to do with me, and I couldn't tell you right now in this conversation everything he did, but he did a lot of things, and it was incredible. And he was a great friend, and I promised him because I knew who he was. And sometimes there are greater good that come out of things, and one of the greater goods is I was able to help somebody. The Iranian people in general, I care about. I want to see them to be free like everybody else. I want women there and girls there to have the rights that women here do. They should have that rights. People have to live their own lives and live their own experiences. So why should I be able to dictate to somebody how they live their life?
From romantic days in Quiche to the secret prisons of the Iranian Ministry of Intelligence, Michael White is now writing his memoirs. Upon his return to the U.S., this former hostage filed a lawsuit against the Islamic Republic in a federal court, citing the pressure and torture he endured during his time in Iran. This case is currently under review. Mehdi now lives in San Diego, We met him again at a local airport as he was preparing to take off. Mahdi said that he would never forget the bitter memories of prison, no matter where he goes.
اواخر حکمم
Almost at the end of my prison time, I went to furlough. After serving a part of your sentence, you can go to furlough, and I was in the furlough when the COVID-19 began, and it was very widespread in Iran. And because of that, the furlough of prisoners got extended. The prison didn't have the capacity to take any more prisoners, and they were trying to minimize the people who are entering the prison. It was the third or fourth time that I got arrested, and it was getting worse every time. The first time I was in detention for 3 days, and then a week, and then a month, and last time it was a year. And it was from different organizations. After 1 year, I started to cross the Turkish-Iranian border illegally and go to Turkey. And it is one of the toughest illegal immigration routes because there is the Turkish police, there is the Iranian police, and Turkish police is very strict and treats the immigrants very bad, beats them, take their stuff. I tried 3 times to cross the border. The first time and the second time police got me, but the third time, finally I was able to cross the border and enter Turkish territory.
رد بشم و وارد ترکیه بشم. من سعی کردم ترکیه درخواست پناهندگی بدم.
When I was in Turkey, I tried to seek asylum, but asylum request doesn't mean anything in Turkey, and they don't accept it at all. Right now, there are many Iranians who are real political activists, and their life is in danger, but Turkish government doesn't care, and they get deported. For instance, an Iranian political activist lady just killed herself a few months ago. Me and Michael were in touch, and we were thinking how we can take me to US. And that time it seemed very impossible, and we talked to each other with disappointment every few weeks or months, and we texted each other and asked, okay, what's next, what's up, and there was no positive outlook. I gathered all my documents and my case and wrote my situation. Michael wrote a letter about me and the things we went through. Against all the odds, none of us could believe it. We were thinking that at least it takes like a year for them to answer us, either yes or no. But after 2 weeks, I got my acceptance. I couldn't believe that moment. I couldn't believe that all this happened. I've emailed all the embassies when I was in Turkey with no answer.
سفارت‌ها ایمیل زده بودم تایمی که ترکیه بودم. خب امروز کنسولگری زنگ زد گفت بیا آقا ویزا تو بگیر. رفتیم اونجا و ویزا رو دادم بهمون. الان داریم برمیگردیم. این هم ویزا. برای همین تیکه کاغذ باید خودت رو جر بدی. همینو بهت بدم به تو بری. فردا ساعت 1 ظهر بلیط پروازمه از فرودگاه استانبول به LAX فرودگاه لس آنجلس. و کل مسیر روز بود، شب نشد. حاجی فرودگاه لس آنجلس.
What are you feeling towards Michael White?
مایکل وایت زندگی منو نجات داد، زندگی منو عوض.
Michael White saved my life. He really changed my life. I risked my life in prison and did some stuff for him that they told me not to do. They told me you are an Iranian, you have political records, and you have been arrested a few times. If you do this again, it makes your situation much worse. But I'm happy that the help I gave him eventually changed my life.
کمکی که کرده بودم
Now, when you speak to Michael, do you talk about your time in prison?
معمولا خب یه اتفاقیه که اصلا نمیشه فراموشش کرد.
Well, this is something I can never forget. It gets faint in my mind, like we are living here, we are going out, we are busy doing our everyday things. But sometimes out of nowhere, me or him say, do you remember the day we were sitting at the cell and talking about America or about freedom? And in that moment, we didn't have any idea that we were going to be free or not. Because in prison, you don't really know. And you think you're not gonna see outside anymore or enjoy the simple things like walking in the street or seeing the cars, going to restaurants. You don't know you're going to experience these things again because the end is very unclear.
ماشینا رو دیدن، رستوران رفتن، اینا رو حتی قرار تجربه کنم دوباره چون پایانش مشخص نیست. این برگه‌ایه که
This is the piece of paper Michael wrote for me on my 20th birthday. It was only 2-3 months since I got in prison, and in the morning I found this paper with a small cake on my bed, writing happy birthday but hope you are free this year. And today we talk about those days, and he tells me, do you remember talking about this, that you're going to be free? And right now I'm here. I'm at this point that 5 years ago seemed like an unreal imagination. And it seemed very impossible, but now it happened and it became reality. And it's really unbelievable.
به واقعیت پیوسته. خیلی چیز عجیبیه.
مهدی ما الان اینجایی که نشستیم
Mehdi, we are at the flight school here, and just a few days ago, you completed your first solo flight.
به همین مسیری که اومدم میخوام اعتماد کنم، یعنی هر کاری که تا الان فکر
I
می‌کردم
want to trust the path that I came. It means I want to continue doing what I thought it's good and humane and see what's going to happen and what's coming towards me. I like to use the opportunities that I have here because I came here from zero. I came from nothing, from a solitary cell that I was in. I came to a place that there are some opportunities for me, and I want to use them in the best way that I can. For all people who did not have the chance, and for all my cellmates, and all people who were together with me during the detention and did not have the chance to come here.
حبس با هم بودیم.
Mehdi, is Iran something left behind, or do you still think about it?
قطعاً ایران هیچ وقت
Iran definitely doesn't go out of my mind, especially because I fought for it and I paid the prices. It's a bond that it cannot be separated. I don't think it can be separated.
جدا نمیشه. فکر نمی‌کنم بشه جداش کرد. حوله‌های رنگارنگ و
I would never forget colorful towels and rosaries that swinging them and painting them is the hobby of boys here. I would never forget our talks, our laughs, and the food that we make at the end of the night. I would never forget Michael, who is from another place in the world and thinks differently. But I would probably forget many other things. Another day ends here like all other days, which became very normal, and it's not tough like before.
مثل قبلا سخت نمی‌گذره. ساعت 1:30.
صدای منو داری؟
آره
الان که روی هوایی و الان که داری پرواز میکنی سرت نگاه میکنی چه احساسی داری؟
الان گذشته خیلی محو و دور برام به نظر میاد. خیلی نمیدونم، واقعا برام مثل فیلمه. یعنی انگار زندگی من نبوده، انگار یه فیلم بوده که داشتم میدیدم و الان رسیده این قسمتش.